What goes into creating a viral skit? I actually got a chance to meet a YouTuber who has created a viral skit. Here he is. This is Nathaniel.
Hi everyone. I run a YouTube channel called Generic Entertainment. It's a very small YouTube channel, but relatively speaking, there are some videos on there that have gotten a lot of attention. One of them, I think, the top one is like almost 1 million views. So yeah.
Yeah, which one was that one? Is the world building one, right?
Yeah, that one was this one called Two Types of Fantasy World Builders, which I made that one about a year ago, and it's not necessarily one of my favorite videos.
I enjoyed watching it though.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I think in terms of how much should we wait for that to?
Yeah, sure. What is that?
No idea.
It sounds like what a machine would sound like if it were dying.
Yeah, so for my personal taste, there are some things about that video that I'm still kind of unhappy with.
Really?
A lot of people have pointed out that if I can get into the specifics of the video, I give a sort of unfair critique of the second type of world building, which is
yeah.
the type of world building that relies on the so-called cow tools approach.
Right.
This idea that you can just sort of wing it and make up your own thing as you go along, like the rule of cool, as opposed to the first type of world building, which I portrayed as being like this. I was trying to do something sort of satirical, but there's also something a bit more noble about the way it's portrayed. I think the actual message of the video was maybe a little bit
in favor towards the first method.
Yeah, unintentionally, because I think that both styles are good. But regardless, I think the video itself was probably popular because it was tapping into a niche that's very well known on the internet. It's related to, there's tons of internet memes about world building. Fantasy is super popular in general.
Gotcha.
So this is just a niche that has a large built-in audience.
Gotcha.
This is the kind of video that I would definitely click on if I were, just scrolling through YouTube, because I love world building stuff. That's like my favorite genre of thing on YouTube.
So definitely one of the aspects of like creating a viral skit, and I put quotations because like I want to repeat, viral is definitely like relative.
Yeah.
It's just getting a lot of views, I guess, or success. It's just something I throw around because it's a YouTube term, it's because it's views and all that stuff. But to make a skit that's viewed, right? Or to make anything that's viewed highly, you need to create something for an audience that exists already.
Yeah.
There's a concept, I read it in a book actually, it was from Alex Hormozy. It said, what's the number one element a hot dog stand needs to get the most customers? Like the best place, the best quality hot dogs, like what do you think it is, right? And the answer that he gave was you need a hungry audience. You need a hungry customers. That's
location.
Yeah. It's not necessarily location. If your location is a whole bunch of people, but none of them are hungry, then it doesn't matter. You just need a lot of hungry customers.
Like a food, like a festival or something.
Yeah. So that's advice I'll never forget, because I felt like that was kind of insightful in a way, but obvious at the same time. But you don't really think about that sometimes when you're creating, because you kind of just want to create whatever you want, right?
Yeah. And I mean that's what I want to do anyway. Yeah. I don't follow the rules of what makes for viral content really, which is why my channel is still relatively small. But that's okay with me because I try to find a decent balance. And sometimes, I do allow myself to make something that's a little bit more catered to the algorithm.
Yeah.
And that stuff always does well. Like whenever I do those types of videos, like the world building one, where I'm comparing two styles of writing, basically, those ones always do really well, but they do less well each time, because I think you have like the initial success from the first video, and then it starts to seem like you're repeating yourself a little bit. And so I guess audiences are less likely to come back every time because it seems like you're just doing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
Even when I'm trying to like mix it up and make it different, that same style of video, there's only so far you can milk it before people just lose interest, I guess.
Gotcha.
But it does still do like significantly better than the other stuff because you have that built-in audience anyway.
Gotcha.
So I guess it's a trade-off.
Yeah, so definitely that's like a big thing, is having a built-in audience. And then other elements is actually like making it good as well, right? So you've been like on YouTube for a while and you've had experience, right? Like creating certain videos and also maybe like writing and all that stuff, right?
I think I was doing videos regularly for like a year.
Gotcha.
Before that one was made.
Nice.
So it helped that I had a big backlog as well of videos that didn't have a lot of views, and then when that one started to get a lot of attention, people could go back and see that I had similar ones and be like, oh, that's cool, you know. And then some of those previous videos started to get a lot more views as well.
Nice.
But yeah, I had some experience by that point with things like, I think when it comes to a sketch, comedic timing is the number one most important thing. I honestly think that like everything could be bad. The video quality could be bad. Even the audio quality could be kind of bad. But if you have good pacing and good timing, I think that's the number one thing that's important.
Okay.
Which honestly, I still think that video, I don't know if the timing is that great. I think the first part goes on a little bit too long, and then the second part also goes on a little bit too long. But I think there was enough there.
I feel like the calculus part was shorter, like significantly shorter.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
I felt like it
okay,
when I watched it. I've only watched it once, and that was like a week ago, so
okay. Well,
that's the feeling I had though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's good. But
yeah,
a lot of people did say that they were expecting like a short punchy joke at the end, and then it didn't deliver on that. It just kept going on, which it's sort of the expectation on YouTube when it comes to comedy, that you're going to be like really short and really punchy, you know.
Gotcha.
And I think if you can deliver on that, then that's like the number one thing that's most important probably.
So comedic timing, is there a way to like practice that other than like creating a lot of skits?
Yeah, I probably watching a lot of videos to get a sense of like the type of rhythm that you're going for. Keep when you're editing a video, just like keep trying to make it shorter and shorter.
Okay.
You try to make the gaps between words as long as they need to be, but like it shouldn't necessarily be always so short, because sometimes you need like those dramatic pauses for effect. It's something that's like really hard to explain. It's something you just sort of have to intuitively feel it. I would say probably the most important thing is just like watching a lot of comedy and figuring out what the rhythm is that you're going for. And you need, like, when you have something that's really fast and then you have like an awkward pause and then like something like a short punchy punchline. Gotcha. That just like your brain just interprets that as funny. I don't know why, but that's just how. Yeah. Interesting.
I'll try to look out for that next time. I don't really think about the process too much when I watch, because I used to watch a whole bunch of Key and Peele.
Yeah.
That's like, those are the skits that I think of as the gold standard. Like I always, back then in high school and college especially, I would just like watch so much of it, and I just found it hilarious, like Key and Peele stuff. Like every other year I would just rewatch all of them.
Yeah, I mean those ones have really good comedic timing, so that's definitely a good one to learn from. And also
because I'm thinking like comedic timing, it's not just editing, but it's also in the writing as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. And in the performances. Yeah. Because you can, it's not just with the editing, definitely, because you can have, a one take thing, and then the timing is really hard to get right because it's all on the, the actors to get the timings right. So I think it's a little bit more challenging than if you're not doing any sort of editing at all.
Definitely.
But with me, because I'm usually talking to myself on camera, I have to edit a lot more. So. Unless I'm like compositing myself into a shot and I'm like doing a little bit of trickery there, but then that's even more difficult. So
that sounds like hard but also fun at the same time, but also confusing because you're like talking to nothing but expecting an answer. It
feels weird and humiliating.
I'll try it out sometime.
No, you should. It's really fun.
I actually got the chance to work with Nathaniel on a skit, so definitely check it out when that releases. I'll leave a link down below. The whole talk about skits and stuff has definitely inspired me to try at least a few. I've actually already wanted to back then because of Key and Peele, as well as, have you ever seen ProZD?
Yeah,
ProZD, I watched a lot of his skits as well back then.
Yeah, he's really good at making them really short and to the point. And those ones have like a ton of viral potential because a lot of them are just like 30 seconds long. But he has, I think also it helps that he's a voice actor, so he really like knows how to deliver on good performances and like make really comedic reaction shots and things like that, which helps a lot. He also has that kind of like likable, funny face that's... I mean, his resting expression, like the sort of like deadpan, straight man expression, it really works well. So
definitely something I'll try out at some point. Is that mostly everything you feel like goes into like creating a good skit?
Yeah, definitely good performances. Like you have to be willing to humiliate yourself a little bit, probably.
Yeah, definitely. I think at this point for me, I'm past the point of being afraid of judgment, so I'm like, I'm okay with humiliating myself. So
yeah, if that's the case, then yeah, you'll definitely be able to. You just have to like really sort of push yourself, and sometimes I mean, for me personally at least, when it feels like I'm going too far, like I'm yelling too loud or getting way too into it, I'm usually like just going far enough, if not going not far enough, you know?
I definitely heard that advice before. Basically, like, go beyond where you think you should be.
Yeah.
And you probably actually are where you might be.
Yeah, because if you're not like, because I'm not an actor or anything, so I don't have any idea like what it feels like to do good acting from an internal perspective. So it's going to feel a little bit goofy and stupid if you're doing it well.
Okay.
I also think when it comes to comedy, for me personally, there's like on YouTube especially, there's like two kind of different styles, and then I think a lot of the best videos sort of blend these two styles, but to a different extent. One of the styles is this kind of relatable humor.
Got it.
Which is kind of this, you pointing out the absurdities in life or other things, you know, like a skit about how frustrating it is to answer CAPTCHAs while trying to log into websites or something like that. Like that's relatable humor, you know? It's like the, I guess, Jerry Seinfeld style, like, what is the deal with this thing, you know? It's just like pointing out weird stuff. And then the other style of humor is going full into
absurdity.
Yeah, just leaning really hard into
like just
your own
stuff
style.
Would never happen, right?
Yeah, stuff that's just completely ridiculous, stuff that is designed, I guess, to confuse the viewer. And I think a lot of my favorite sketches on YouTube, they start off looking like they're going to be relatable, but then they veer off all the way into absurdity. Like they give exaggerated performances, or they go in a completely different direction than you're expecting.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it so much more memorable for me.
Gotcha.
Like if you have a chance, Joel Haver is one of my favorite sketch comedians on YouTube. He does this, like, a lot of his videos, they seem like they're going to be this relatable style humor, but then they go way more into, he's like very inspired by movies, so a lot of them are very sort of cinematic.
Gotcha.
A lot of them are heavily improvised, and they just go in completely random and bizarre directions, and that makes them so memorable and special, as opposed to just sort of like pointing out stuff that's weird in life. But you do also have to have that like relatable hook if you want anyone to watch the stuff you're making. Yeah.
That makes a whole lot of sense. It's sort of like the draw, and then the execution is just like extreme.
Yeah.
But also, you probably have never watched, or I wouldn't assume anything. Have you ever watched Kung Fu Hustle?
I don't think so, no.
Kung Fu Hustle, Shaolin Soccer. There's an actor called Stephen Chow, and he is a comedic action sort of actor, and he does a lot of comedy movies where there is a lot of absurdism, I'd say. Like Shaolin Soccer and Kung Fu Hustle are both like extremes.
Yeah.
And it's really, really funny and hilarious, and I feel like for me that's kind of what I think of when I think of like, oh, these are just crazy things that would like never really happen, but they're performing it, and they're performing it so well. It's like fun to watch and funny and crazy at the same time. It's
really hard to do well, I would imagine. Like to get to the point where humor is so incredibly difficult and weird and personal. When you're going far out into the realm of weirdness, there's always a chance that the audience is just going to be completely disconnected from what you're doing. They'll be looking for a joke where there is no joke.
True.
You know? And so I think it's inherently more risky doing that style of comedy, which I think is probably why I stick more to the other end. And I try to venture into the waters of the crazy end. But a lot of my stuff is more like the first type, like this relatable style humor, even though I don't like it as much. But it's harder to do the second style well.
Yeah, I didn't even know there were two styles already. I never thought of it that way. So
that's just my personal way of thinking about it. It's not like a... Yeah. No,
that's still cool to frame it that way, because it's like, it gives it some sort of like structure for you to be like, okay, I want a little bit of a blend and so on.
Yeah, I think thinking about it, like trying to come up with a relatable premise is a very good way of giving yourself a hook, and then you can start going off from there into building like your own style of comedy.
Gotcha.
Doing your own thing.
Yeah, but I think that's like Definitely some good tips. I think for me, this is probably going to be an upcoming challenge, whether it's like a week challenge or something, just to try some skits out. Thank you so much, Nathaniel, for coming on to my channel
Thank you.
giving some good advice for how to make a good skit, and maybe even viral if you get there. That's it for this one. We'll catch you guys in the next one, and don't forget to watch the skit on his channel. I'll leave a link down below. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Bye.